Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to welcome you to World Higher Education Ranking Summit WERS conference. Today's topic is actually super important because it's very controversial and it requires a lot of efforts, because today's topic is bridging the gap between industry and academia issues and controversies. And today's today's topic is really important because we see the divide, because there is the lack of communication. And today I'm really honored to interview Dr. Badford, who is a real leader in the field. She's a visiting lecturer at the University of Pittsburgh with years of teaching experience for top-ranking universities throughout the greater Pittsburgh area. What is more, her professional repertoire includes providing instruction in argument, civil discourse, media literacy, intercultural communication, business and professional communication, and public speaking. Dr. Georgia has been positioned as student advisor, student mentor, member of assessment, and curriculum committees. What is more, she's a grant reviewer. And Dr. Badford's research continues from her dissertation dealing with contemporary issues and problems associated with curriculum, assessment, access, equality, and equity. Dr. Georgia, it's a great pleasure to interview you, to see you here. And my first question is, what is the meaning of the term work ready?
We have been chasing this idea of making students work ready since industrialism. We have to go all the way back to the late 1800s to approximately 1923, when there was a project that was designed to utilize schools to economically produce a work-ready force of laborers. And this project has actually been described by Meyer et al. As a nation-building social movement designed to create an urban industrial society. And if you think back to the needs of a work-ready force at that time, industry was dominated by manufacturing. And so what work-ready was then is not the same as what work-ready is now. We are now in more of a knowledge-oriented, technology-driven society, but we're still using many of the same practices, theories, methodologies that were developed for the industrial era. So we don't have a true grasp of what work ready in a contemporary sense is.
Thank you so much, Dr. Georgia, because today the problem is that there's, as academic, as a practitioner, that the divide is there. And a part of the problem is lack of communication. Do you think there is enough communication, or do you think that there's ways to improve the communication between industry and practitioners? And there are certain biases that are there. So industry professionals think that sometimes they have this biased opinion that professionals are in ways more equipped because they are in the industry, while academics, they think that practitioners do not have research skills to get there into academia. But what is your approach here? Because to my mind, we live in the age where it's very flexible. And today you're academic, tomorrow you can be a practitioner, and vice versa. What is your opinion about this?
Well, I think we have 2 points where we have a lack of understanding and communication. We assume that when we have students enter into higher education, that they are coming to us equipped with certain skills, such as research skills, and they don't. They also have a very poor understanding of technology. We are in a technology-driven society. And so we also have deficiencies in areas such as reading and writing skills and basic mathematical skills. So some of that is coming from this movement back in industrialism. We're still following those same strategies. And so we're not teaching students, part of what came about during that time is the standardized testing movement. That's when it really began. And so what we're doing is we're preparing students to take exams rather than preparing them with what they're going to need for higher education. So they start higher education at a deficit, and we spend time scrambling to catch them up to pace. And many of them, and certainly STEM careers, struggle with this. Generating academia can't seem to generate enough STEM majors. And it is in part because they're lacking in skills when they get to us. And so this is a very controversial issue. And it's almost as though we're not supposed to talk about it, but the systems are not aligned. There's no alignment. There's no real, outside of, this is the list of courses that you should take. We still are lacking in critical thinking skills, reading and writing, and basic mathematical skills. And so when we're sending, when students arrive to us, they may want to major in something that they cannot actually major in. And so we have trouble generating on the other side the number of students certainly required that go out there with critical thinking skills and basic reading, writing, mathematics skills. So obviously it's industry dependent, but we're not communicating as a whole in terms of two different systems of education, K through 12, and then higher education, there's certainly none. But then higher education, we need to have a better understanding as to what is required in industry. And rather than chasing work ready as a goal, perhaps what we need to do is identify the threads. What is core in terms of what is expected in the workplace? Because actually, most companies provide training in the skills that someone will need. Obviously that's industry dependent. If a person is going into the accounting field, they need to have the basics of accounting. But there are people that take jobs that have absolutely nothing to do with the major that they studied because they're looking for certain skills. So what are those core skills? What is that thread that is running through that defines these are the types of knowledge areas and these are the skills that we need? So there really is not enough communication at either end of higher education.
Thank you so much, Dr. Georgia, for in-depth analysis of this topic. My next question is on the problem of directing education according to practical skills aim.
The practical skills aim, what is practical tends to be associated with what is useful. And that changes alternately, through whatever social movements, progress in society. Those are changing terms. And so again, this is where we need to identify that core thread in terms of critical thinking, strong skills in reading, writing, and understand what it is that people are going to be exposed to in industry. We, for example, taking a class like argument teaches people how to analyze information, how to examine sources, to evaluate their credibility, to understand how complex the world is and how to conduct research, how to obtain a better understanding of things. And so these are skills in critical thinking that, cross many different dimensions. And I have students ranging from engineering students to medical students, all of whom leave saying, this has changed my life because now I know how, from any perspective, taking a course that is, I'm a rhetorician, a rhetoric-based course, we are teaching them how to analyze information, how to think critically, how to speak well, how to write well. These are core areas that are practical, but they actually give students an added dimension that actually also aids in helping them be productive members of any society.
Thank you, Dr. Georgia. This is very important to address those questions and those issues. But my next concern is about factory model of education. So has the factory model of education contributed to literacy problem in your mind?
There's a lot of evidence about this. And again, this goes back to when universities used to have rhetoric departments. And, I'm going to get into a little bit of trouble with this because we typically have English departments or communication departments. Rhetoric used to provide those basic oral and written communication skills in critical thinking and so forth. And it's not that I'm promoting rhetoric as a discipline, but it was the first model of education. It goes all the way back to Plato, Aristotle, and all of those ancients who really defined education. And these are some of the core areas that are important now. And so when that shift happened and English became the model and there was more of a literary focus, rhetoric departments used to provide those writing skills and oral skills. So they were separated and writing came under English. And now there's this production orientation. When somebody is in a communication, they tend to take things like public speaking. And so that has added to the literacy problem because immediately after that happened, when departments started developing entrance exams that looked at things such as literacy, there was a sharp decline in writing skills and reading skills. And it's not a crisis that we put language of crisis on this, but it's not actually a crisis. This is an ongoing situation. It has been this way. And one of the reasons is, as an example, we teach our kids how to read using the factory model that comes from the research of Frederick Taylor and his time and motion studies. So what we're trying to do is automate human beings so that they can perform functions within a certain time frame. So reading comprehension is assumed to come about if a student is able to read a piece of writing, an excerpt, and they're able to read it to completion without making any mistakes within 1 minute. The problem is every time the student makes a mistake, they are made to start over again. And so if they do that repeatedly 100 times, and I actually witnessed this myself with my own children when they were doing some online learning, what kicks in is rote memorization. They're starting to memorize rather than comprehend. Comprehension is the ability to paraphrase something and put it into your own words. That is a demonstration of understanding. So we're not teaching them really how to read, how to write. And so that literacy problem has been following us for a very long time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Georgia, for shedding light on this. And even though this is not hugely supported in academia, but this is exactly the challenge that needs to be addressed. And your work and your research is really doing a lot in this realm. And my next question is actually on relationship, and if there is any relationship between the high stakes standardized testing environment and the onset of mental illness in children.
And the answer to that is complex because, again, it is an area where there's a lot of silence around it. We need more research, but we do absolutely have proof. And in fact, Clausen et al. Said test anxiety has been proven to be detrimental to students' test scores. So we look at anxiety as a function of being able to perform well on tests, but we're not looking at what that is doing on the outset. So again, I actually had to homeschool my children. I took them out of the system a couple of times because they were changing as a result of this. And I could see, and any parent can tell you, the anxiety a student develops surrounding testing time. And so when standardized testing is being done, there's a lot of practice. that students are made to go through, and they have to reproduce these answers effectively. And there's a lot of anxiety that they develop. They start losing sleep. They become very nervous. Their eating habits are affected, all sorts of things. So we need to examine what is happening as a result of taking the test themselves. I mean, the experience of test taking, we know people develop test anxiety, but as a result specifically of taking a standardized test, we need more information, and we need to continue research into this area. We need to figure out, is that itself actually contributing to the onset of mental illness?
This is a very crucial topic for students or for pupils, for everyone. Thank you so much for putting this on agenda. And I believe that everything you write, everything you research is based on the angle of also contributing to the angle of mental health here. And my last question for today is actually about industry leaders in tech. Tech is one of the most rapidly growing ecosystems, and tech giants, they actually set rules for many of us. And what do they say about the type of skills that they are looking in candidates, and does academia provide those type of skills?
Well, academia, we do our best in higher education. As I said, the students that are coming to us are often challenged with basic skills. And what the tech giants are saying, Elon Musk, for example, Bill Gates, they have said that strong reading, writing, comprehension skills are very important. And the late Steve Jobs actually has a very interesting story. He did not complete college. He started college and dropped out because he didn't want to cause this type of expense for his parents. But the interesting thing was that he started taking various types of courses, including calligraphy. And that became the basis of all of the fonts that we see used in Microsoft Word, and basically every font that we're using, to communicate with each other. And so he was the father of that. And so he also stressed the importance of those foundational skills. And I think that's the key. When we start to stress how we can produce people that are industry ready so that industry can shape them according to what they want. Elon Musk was hiring people from all over, different professions, different disciplines, I should say. So they're not looking specifically for somebody that's coming out necessarily with this body of skills, because those skills are going to change. Technology is ever changing, ever advancing. But what we do need is to produce people that have the ability to learn, to think critically, and to write. And so I think if we look to those as guides, we can start to develop a better understanding as to what work ready means.
Dr. Georgia, it's been an honor, as always, to have you here with us. And your perspective is truly unique, but at the same time, you bring so much of action towards the research, and bridging the gap, bridging that divide between industry and academia is absolutely essential for every person in this world, because everyone is affected by this. It's not only the problem of academics, it's not only the problem of industry leaders, it's the problem of the community. So only through collaboration, through communication, through unity, this can be addressed and challenged. Thank you so much for your effort. Thank you so much for your research. And I'm really looking forward to host you again. It's been a great pleasure to interview you. Thank you, Dr. Georgia.
Thank you so much.